I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with Dead Ringers cinematographer Laura Merians Goncalves. And the series tells the story of twin gynecologists, both played by the same actress, Rachel Weisz. Are there unique technical challenges when filming scenes as a cinematographer where both twins are in the same shot?
Sure. I mean, it's not necessarily technical complications, but definitely there's a technical process to it. On our show, I would say 90% of the time we use motion control. We would sort of in the prep just figure out, the director, myself, and our VFX supervisor, Eric Pasquarelli, would just figure out what the best approach for the creative would be. And 9 times out of 10, it was motion control, just because of the ease of, the technology and how it sort of integrates all of the departments on set. And so we can really like pre-visualize what the twinning shots would look like ahead of time.
And the series follows the 1988 film of the same name by David Cronenberg. Had you seen that film, been a fan of that film before coming on board for this reimagining?
Definitely a Cronenberg fan, and I had seen the film, but it had been quite a long time. And just tonally, I've always been a big fan of Cronenberg. Yeah.
What did you rewatch it for in preparation for this? And what did you get from it that rewatch?
Yeah, I rewatched it. I was really just blown away by Jeremy Irons' performance and how really immediately when you're watching the film, you're convinced of the world that he's in and how he's these twin doctors have their very own specific world. And I think that was the biggest takeaway, is that we really wanted to have the Mantle twins have living in a world that was not our own.
Did you take any imagery from Cronenberg's film, and did you want to pay homage to that and sort of call back to it?
Yeah, there's a couple pretty obvious nods to the original, which is the use of the red scrubs. And so we did our own, which was such a beautiful visual in the original, and we really wanted to like draw from that in our own way. And so our amazing costume designer came up with this more like a very like feminine version of that. And we added, latex gloves and red latex gloves to the Mantle twin scrubs, and their own version of like the masks and the head covering, and then these just like beautiful floor length red gold scrubs. So we wanted to do that as like a nod to the original, and then also in our operating room, there was something that struck me when I rewatched the original, that there was just this really beautiful octagonal shaped light fixture in their operation room. So myself and the production designer, Erin Miguel, sort of came up with our own nod to that, which was an octagonal shaped oculus that was sort of served as like the operating light in that room.
And how do you work in general with the production designer? Because you have these practical light sources that are like parts of the sets and but are also influencing the lighting of a scene and how it comes across.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really, really the collaboration with the production designer was really important in this project because of that, because we had so many design elements that we really wanted to be strong, but also sort of inform the world that the Mantle twins created when they opened up their own birthing center. And there was a lot of a sort of observational rooms and ways that we wanted to let the viewer experience this world. So myself and our showrunner Alice Birch and the production designer Erin Miguel worked really closely on how to design the sets so we would have those layers and vantage points and interactivity that we wanted the viewer to have when they were experiencing the space for the first time. And then, you know, a lot of the lighting sources were also big, major design elements. So it was a really nice collaboration of those departments.
And how would you say that this version of Dead Ringers, how did you want to deviate from the original film from a visual perspective and put, kind of a unique stamp on it?
Um, how do we want to deviate from the? Yeah, I mean, our intention was never to like be a straight remake of the original. I think that the Mantle twins in our world are definitely unique to the Mantle twins in the Cronenberg version. So yeah, it was never like considered a remake. It was more a unique world that we wanted to create for these brilliant women who also have these like really complicated internal mental states. And I think that allowed us to have really heightened operatic moments that you don't really see in the original Cronenberg version.
And you photographed the last 4 episodes of the series while Jody Lee Lipes was the cinematographer for the first two. Did you work directly with him to develop a visual style that was really cohesive across episodes?
Yeah, I mean, Jody was super collaborative, and we became, great friends, and our artistic partners really early on. And he brought me into the fold in his prep for his first episodes. Although we knew that the show would take on, have like a strong visual sort of arc, and that when I started my episodes, it marks like a very big change for the Mantle twins when they open up their own center. So we knew that the show would have sort of a visual evolution, but we wanted it all to be grounded in the same world, of course. So we worked together to sort of make that a cohesive, so it would have a cohesive visual language throughout the show, but also take on a world of its own. If that makes
How does
sense. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. How does it affect your approach to your work in general when you're working on a project with another cinematographer as opposed to one where you sort of are able to bring your own independent visual style?
Yeah, it's nice to work with another cinematographer, especially one like Jody, who's such an incredible collaborator and in such a complicated world that has so many um, sort of phases to it. It was really fun to work with him. And I mean, I love cinematographers, so I love working with them and the opportunity to collaborate with artists that have amazing ideas that spark ideas of your own. And it's just another aspect of the collaboration that I really enjoy.
And the show has this really eerie, unsettling tone, but also this dark sense of humor. How did you sort of achieve the look that really complemented the style and really the vibe, the energy of the show?
Um, yeah, I think that the twins and the look of the show sort of share a duality. You know, the personality of the twins in one side is very professional and but also humorous, and has like this very twisted layered sense of humor. And then there's also this dark side of their world, and their internal states that we were able to explore. So there's there's a lot of control in their world, and there's also a lot that's out of their control. And I think that we tried to um, always have, both of those represented a sort of in sort of a style that was complementary but also very distinct, if that makes sense. So we wanted um, the moments of their internal struggles to have a slightly like heightened visual language, and that changed from scene to scene.
And you mentioned the duality of it. You have these two Mantle sisters who, just between them individually, have such different personalities. Is the style different, or the approach different depending on which one you're focused on? Did you have sort of like a different visual language for each sister?
Yeah, they're so different, but they're so similar. They are one and the same, and I think that this show really like asks the viewer to sort of explore those thoughts of like how many versions of ourselves we can have. Can we be sensual and sexual and also very serious and intellectual and professional? And so those worlds are definitely blurred, and I think the visual language of that is intentionally blurred as well. But I think in general, Beverly is sort of thought of as like, especially early on, the more grounded and like centered sister, but also she has this sort of all these internal struggles that are constantly happening with her. And then Elliot, on the other hand, is the more like embodied twin that is definitely, more of a sensualist. And then so her visual style tended to be like a little bit more kinetic. But those rules were always like meant to be broken because, like I said, the show is about those lines being blurred constantly.
And at one point in your episodes, the story travels to Alabama when the Mantle sisters visit their second birthing center. Was your approach to that locale different? In what ways did you sort of adjust the style for, to capture this different setting?
Um, yeah, myself and Karin Kasama, who's the director of that episode, talked about how they were sort of exiting their comfort zone of New York City. And so how can we make this feel like a very uncomfortable space for them? Um, and so we wanted to um, change the visual language just slightly, but not, again, just all of it being like a cohesive world of these twins. So we sort of um, let the location inspire us a little bit, and in that we wanted a place that looked like a timeless. We wanted the location to feel like this old, like mysterious mansion, and we used a lot of candlelight and um, also like some interesting um, sort of impressionistic moments in the lens, where we would experiment and try things a little bit more than we have in previous episodes, where like had some really beautiful flaring moments and um some 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 fantasy sequences as well, where we got pretty experimental. Technically we did switch the lenses a little bit just to um give it, again, just like this textural sort of color space that you hadn't seen before in the episodes.
And there is that dream sequence in Alabama Beverly has about an enslaved girl who was experimented on, by the man who pioneered gynecology. It's such an eye-popping scene, and you mentioned being able to get more experimental with it. How did you shoot that? How do you even contextualize that, since it's in Beverly's interior mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's we sort of really tried to put ourselves in that position of blurring the lines of there's a couple times in the series where we wanted to sort of play with whether something's really happening or not happening, or something's like a dream or a fantasy, or something's just like a daydream or a reality. And I think that sequence was sort of asked of us to think of a visual way to make it something that she's experiencing in that space, but obviously we wanted to sort of honor the dialogue and give a stage for it that maybe was unexpected. And I think because that episode is so surreal and has so many surreal moments, I hope the audience is still unsure of like whether she's really experiencing this or not. The dialogue's quite long, and when Karn and I scouted the location, we didn't really feel like there was a space for us to do it in a way that like gave some breath to the scene. So we decided to build that space on stage, but also keep it very simple and elegant and sort of surreal.
And what episode are you entering for Emmy consideration, and what made you decide on that one?
I entered episode 3, which is when the Parker Mantle Center opens for the twins. And to me, that sort of marks the shift in the series. So visually, it's when the series sort of evolves into from the like sort of oppressive world of female healthcare that the twins had been existing in up until that point where you're actually seeing their fantasy and their dreams become a reality. So to me, episode 3 really visually represents that.
Well, I want to congratulate you on your work on the series. It's really striking, and so I'm, really happy to talk with you about it. And thank you for so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Daniel.